Hey guys, tonight we're cracking open a bottle of questionable protein powder and tiptoeing into one of history's most jacked, controversial, and let's be honest, absurdly entertaining rabbit holes, the complete history of steroids in sports. From the greased-up gladiators of the 1950s Olympics to modern athletes whose necks are wider than their entire family tree, this is the story of how sports went from run fast, lift heavy, eat your vegetables to inject mystery substances and see what happens to your jawline. And since this is our brand new channel, before you settle in, maybe take a second to hit like and subscribe, but only if you actually enjoy what you find here. Leave a comment telling me where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim those lights, put on a fan for that sweet, soothing white noise, and nestle in. Maybe flex once in the mirror just to check that you're still natty. Let's get curious for a second. Have you ever wondered, what did athletes even look like before steroids? Did anyone ever get disqualified for having suspiciously large calves? Who was the first person to say, you know what'll make the shot put more fun? Horse tranquilizers. And if you could time travel to 1976 East Germany, would you come back with a gold medal or a sudden urge to grow a moustache? Congratulations, you've just woken up in a cold, tiled Olympic training facility. It's the mid-20th century. Everyone around you looks like they're sponsored by a pharmaceutical company, and the concept of nature is as outdated as a rotary phone. Good luck. It's the 1950s, and sports are about to change forever. You, a young hopeful with a chin like granite and biceps made mostly of oatmeal, hear whispers in the locker room. Scientists are tinkering with hormones, coaches are suddenly interested in your recovery, and breakfast includes a side of mysterious white pills. Welcome to the beginning of sports chemical romance. Let's set the scene. The year is 1954. Your gym bag is made of canvas and disappointment. Your sneakers are basically repurposed loafers, and your sports nutrition is a steak dinner and whatever the local pharmacist is willing to sell you without too many questions. The smell in the locker room is a potent blend of liniment, chalk dust, and good old-fashioned fear of losing. There's a new energy in the air, an invisible arms race, but nobody wants to be the first to admit what's really going on. It starts innocently enough. The team doctor is spending a lot more time around the weight room, jotting notes and asking you about your energy levels. He's always smiling, but it's the kind of smile that says, would you like to try something experimental? Next thing you know, there's a little glass bottle in your gym cubby, courtesy of medical science. It doesn't have a label, and when you ask what it is, the answer is always, don't worry, it's just for recovery, builds character. You believe him, mostly because he's the only person who knows how to tape ankles and get a stubborn splinter out of your palm. You start taking the pills, just one every morning, like a responsible adult with absolutely no idea what's inside. At first, you don't notice much, but then, almost overnight, you're squatting more, running faster, and waking up with the overwhelming urge to chop firewood for no reason at all. You feel strong, confident, mildly concerned about the hair sprouting on your knuckles, but hey, that's probably just genetics. Your teammates are having the same experience. Suddenly everyone's shirts are too tight and there's a lot more grunting during practice. Even the water boy is starting to look suspiciously vascular. Of course, nobody talks openly about it. There are rumours that the Soviets have been experimenting with hormones for years, but here in the good old USA, you're just catching up. Coaches don't want to know, trainers pretend they don't see, and you just want to make the team. The line between hard work and chemical assistance gets fuzzier every day, but if it helps you run the 100 in less time than it takes to spell testosterone, is that really cheating? You decide it's not, at least not until someone else starts breaking records faster than you. The real change isn't just in your body, it's in the culture. Practices get longer, expectations get higher, and suddenly everyone is obsessed with recovery time. You find yourself reading articles about protein, amino acids, and something called anabolic, You start hanging out in the science section of the library, just in case there's a secret formula in the chemistry books. Meanwhile, your mum keeps asking why you're eating 6 eggs for breakfast and demanding more steak for dinner. You tell her it's for your athletic development, leaving out the part about the strange bottle you keep hidden behind your deodorant. By the end of the season, you're part of a new breed. The first wave of modern athletes, forged in the fires of competition and a little bit of pharmaceutical curiosity. You've won a few medals, ruined a few shirts, and now, when you look around the locker room, everyone's arms look like they've been carved by Michelangelo's less subtle cousin. You don't know exactly what you've started, but you do know that sports will never be the same. You lie in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if this is what greatness feels like, or if maybe you're just one of the first guinea pigs in a very strange experiment. You're not sure where the line is, but you know you've crossed it, and tomorrow you'll cross it again. For now you drift off to sleep, dreaming of gold medals, steak dinners, and the next big secret that science will bring to breakfast. Congratulations, comrade. You're now a Soviet athlete in the Iron Curtain's golden age, where medals mean national glory and the lab is just as important as the track. Coaches hand out syringes with all the warmth of a state functionary. The KGB isn't just watching. Sometimes they're giving you injection tips. Let's take a deep breath. Through your nose. Please. The air is thick with ammonia and suspicion. You wake up at the state-sponsored athlete dormitory. The ceiling leaks, but the radiators work overtime, making every room smell like boiled cabbage and old socks. You swing your legs off the cot, and your roommate, a javelin thrower who now shaves twice a day, grunts something about morning injections. The daily routine is relentless. Rise at dawn, eat grey porridge that tastes faintly of shoe leather, and then line up in the medical wing for your special vitamins. These aren't Flintstones gummies, unless Flintstone's secret flavour was mild terror. It's the 1960s, and winning at the Olympics isn't just about personal achievement. It's about proving that socialism builds better, stronger humans, and you, comrade, are living proof, whether you want to be or not. Medals are not just medals, they're international propaganda. Each gold is a diplomatic victory. Every world record is another page in the party's highlight reel. If you run fast enough, you're helping defeat capitalism. No pressure, right? The scientific method of Soviet sports is legendary. You're part of a vast, coordinated effort involving biochemists, nutritionists, sports psychologists, and exactly one grumpy old man who can make an IV out of anything. Before breakfast, you're handed a schedule. Sprints, lifting, interviews, injections, more lifting, tactical naps. There's no downtime unless the Politburo says so. Sometimes, after a long day, you relax by watching propaganda films about the glorious Soviet future, which, oddly, never mentions your mysterious new acne. The medical staff in the Soviet program are equal parts nurse, mad scientist, and secret police. They keep records in code, mix compounds behind locked doors, and ask very pointed questions if you so much as hesitate with your daily dose. This is for strength, they say, tapping the syringe with a practice flick. It is also for Mother Russia. Now roll up your sleeve, and you do. The injection is cold and quick, leaving a strange metallic taste in your mouth. Someone jokes that it is liquid heroism, but you notice nobody laughs out loud. Training is intense and weirdly efficient. Everything is measured: stride length, heart rate, even how much you sweat per kilometre. If you don't improve fast enough, there's a committee meeting about your progress. Sometimes the head coach, who looks suspiciously like Brezhnev's cousin, tells you to relax and trust the process. The process involves more needles. You do not argue with the process. Social life is, heavily monitored. The KGB has an office in the stadium, and it's not just for show. You quickly learn that teamwork means more than just passing the baton. It means never talking about the strange vials, never refusing a dose, and never, ever asking the javelin thrower why she now has a deeper voice than the men's wrestling team. The motto is, see nothing, say nothing, win everything. And if you do win, you get a bonus, a slightly bigger apartment, a colour television, and a parade where the crowd cheers and nobody mentions the sudden spike in national sideburns. The Soviets are always experimenting. Some days the pills are blue, sometimes they're yellow, some are shaped like tiny rockets, others smell like the gym socks from 3 Olympics ago. Your job is to take what you're given and set a new record. The word voluntary has quietly disappeared from your vocabulary, replaced by for the glory of the state. If you have questions, there's a pamphlet, and if the pamphlet doesn't answer, there's a man in a grey suit who will. In the end, you stand atop the podium, draped in red, the anthem blaring, your heart pounding with pride and maybe a hint of mystery. Compound number 16. You look out at the crowd, smile for the cameras, and wonder if this is what it means to be part of history. The medals are heavy around your neck, but not as heavy as the secrets you'll take home, locked away with your trophies and your last bottle of vitamins. Welcome to the Olympic arms race, comrade, where even the losers never get to forget. You're at the big meet. Someone's lifting a car. Someone else is muttering about Russian vitamins. Is it magic? Is it science? Or did that guy really just bench press your luggage? Let's set the scene. Vienna, 1954. The gymnasium smells like sweat, chalk, old leather, and a little bit like fear. You're wearing a singlet that leaves absolutely nothing to the imagination, and there's a crowd of men who look like they were sculpted out of granite and mild anxiety. The banners hang heavy with national pride, and everyone is sizing each other up, not just with their eyes, but with the kind of steely glances that suggest someone might actually try to deadlift you for practice. You've been training for this for months, years really. You know your numbers, you know your clean and jerk, you know the exact number of calories you've eaten for breakfast, lunch and dinner for the last year, down to the lonely tragic raisin you accidentally dropped behind the radiator. You are ready, or at least you think you are, until you see Ivan from the Soviet Union step onto the stage. Ivan is not so much a man as a walking, frowning refrigerator. The audience goes quiet as he chalks his hands, grips the bar, and lifts with a grunt that sounds suspiciously like it might have an asterisk in the record books. There's a hush, then applause. He even drops the bar, chalk dust exploding around his feet like he's just completed a magic trick. Coaches from every country huddle and whisper, glancing over their shoulders. The phrase Russian vitamins is passed from group to group, each repetition a little more conspiratorial. Someone claims Ivan's uncle is a chemist. Someone else says he drinks a special tonic, straight from the hands of a government doctor. Another guy swears he saw Ivan eat a horse for breakfast. No one can prove anything, but everyone is sure. Something is different this year. You, meanwhile, are trying to focus, but your mind drifts. Was that really just training, or did the Soviets find a secret weapon? You look down at your calloused hands, your honest muscles, and wonder if you're already obsolete. Suddenly it's not just about who lifts the most, it's about who's playing by which set of rules. Your own coach looks nervous. He tells you to eat more steak. He asks if you've been sleeping enough. Then he lowers his voice and asks, "Did you notice anything strange about the Russians?" You nod, because you have, but you don't say anything. No one does. Not openly. Backstage, things are tense. The Americans are muttering about fair play. The British are making jokes about spinach. The Soviets stand in a tight circle, smiling, but not the sort of smile that invites conversation. You hear a German lifter say, "If that's what vitamins do, sign me up." The Italians shrug and offer you an espresso, as if caffeine might be the answer to chemical warfare. You finally step onto the stage. The lights are hot, the judges are impassive, and your heartbeat is a snare drum in your ears. You lift, you strain, you set a personal best. The crowd cheers. But when the medals are handed out, Ivan and his Soviet teammates sweep the podium. It's not even close. The rest of you are left blinking in the glare of Soviet superiority, and the rumour mill goes into overdrive. That night, in the hotel bar, everyone is still talking. Someone claims to have seen a suitcase full of ampules. Another insists the Soviets travel with their own team of doctors, scientists, and at least one suspiciously buff grandmother. You start to realise the age of innocent sport is ending. The age of science is just beginning, and nobody's quite sure what the rules are anymore, or if there even are any rules. You finish your drink, head back to your room, and try to sleep. But the whispers echo in your head. Russian vitamins, secret injections, new frontiers in muscle. You don't know what the future holds, but you do know one thing. Next year, everyone will be looking for an edge. And maybe, just maybe, the weightlifting world will never be the same again. Stateside, things are changing. You, a college football hopeful, hear from the team doctor that there's a new way to speed up recovery. Before long, your teammates are sharing needles like friendship bracelets. The FDA, meanwhile, is still playing catch-up. Let's rewind to the late 1950s and early 60s, when the American locker room is a heady cocktail of ambition, sweat, and the faint lingering scent of icy hot. You're at a state university, training twice a day, eating steak like it's a food group, and living in constant fear of being outbenched by the backup kicker. But suddenly, there's a new kind of competition brewing. The trainers are all abuzz with talk of scientific progress. Recovery is the word of the week, and the new recovery strategy. It's not more sleep, not more steak, but something that comes in a little glass vial and looks suspiciously like it belongs in a mad scientist lab. You're a little skeptical at first. After all, you've always been told that hard work is its own reward, and that what you put in is what you get out. But then you see it. That one teammate who just a few months ago could barely run a mile without stopping to gasp is now running sprints like a greyhound with rent due. His acne is getting a little out of control, his mood swings are legendary, and you're pretty sure he's grown an extra neck vein. But hey, he's breaking school records, and the scouts are paying attention. The doctor, white coat flapping, gives a little speech about testosterone therapy and how it can help with muscle growth and quicker healing. He assures you it's perfectly legal right now. The FDA, he says, hasn't really decided how to classify this stuff. If that sounds a little suspicious, well, you're not wrong. But you're also 19, desperate to make varsity, and not one to question authority, especially authority that promises you a shot at glory and maybe, just maybe, a shot at the NFL. The vial starts circulating in the locker room. At first, it's hush-hush, an invitation-only club for the most dedicated lifters. But then it spreads. The quarterback's in, the defensive line is all in, and even the punter is getting weirdly swole. It quickly becomes the worst-kept secret on campus. Needles are shared, doses guessed, and every conversation eventually turns to who's on cycle. You're pretty sure the only person who doesn't know is the school mascot, and even he's looking more muscular these days. Your routine shifts. Mornings are now a mix of eggs, protein shakes, and for some, a quick jab in the thigh. Recovery times plummet. You feel invincible, like your bones are made of steel and your tendons are braided rope. At the same time, the risks are very real and very, very ignored. Your joints ache. Your temper is shorter than ever, and you find yourself yelling at vending machines for eating your change. But every new personal record feels like a little victory against the universe. Meanwhile, upstairs in the athletic department, the coaches are suddenly extremely interested in your progress. No one asks too many questions. The results speak for themselves. School records tumble, rivals whisper, and the university gets a few shiny new trophies for the case. You're lauded as an example of American grit and determination, with only the occasional awkward cough whenever someone asks about your nutrition plan. It doesn't take long for the news to spread beyond the field. The whispers reach the press, and the FDA, looking up from a mountain of paperwork, starts to notice. There are congressional hearings, stern warnings, and eventually new rules. But for a little while, you and your teammates live in the wild west of athletic enhancement, a time when the only limits are how much pain you can tolerate, how many eggs you can eat, and whether you remember which butt cheek you injected last week. And as you look around the weight room, at the shiny new biceps and the quietly competitive glances, you know things will never go back to the way they were. Not really. Not now that you've seen what's possible when testosterone is just another part of a balanced breakfast. Meet Dr. John Ziegler, the man who saw Soviet powerlifters and said, "I'll have what they're having." You're sitting in his office clutching a bottle of Dianabol and wondering if your liver will notice. It's the late 1950s, and you're an American athlete with a dream to not just compete with the Soviets, but to out-muscle them. The Cold War isn't just in the headlines. It's being fought in the squat rack and on the weightlifting platform. That's where Dr. Ziegler comes in. He's a physician, a scientist, and apparently your new best friend if you want to push the boundaries of what the human body can do. Ziegler isn't your average doctor. He's got a little of the mad scientist in him, a love for anatomy charts and an endless curiosity about how far muscle and sinew can stretch. He's just back from a trip to Vienna, where he's witnessed Soviet lifters doing things with barbells that shouldn't be possible outside of comic books. Even looks like he's part bear, part washing machine. The Americans, meanwhile, are strong, but they're being left in the dust, sometimes literally, as they're forced to watch yet another Soviet stack up gold medals like pancakes. You find yourself in Ziegler's office, a place that smells faintly of menthol and ambition. He's got vials, pills, and a gleam in his eye that says, "Science experiment, but with more biceps." He explains that the Soviets are rumoured to be using testosterone, and frankly, he's tired of watching Team USA play catch-up. So he works with the folks at CIBA Pharmaceuticals to develop something new, methandrostenolone, soon to be known by its catchy trade name Dianabol. It's in a little brown bottle, the label almost comically innocent. For medical use only. Sure, you're one of the first guinea pigs, and Ziegler treats you like a pioneer. There's no playbook. The instructions: take one pill, lift heavy things, and let him know if you start growing a second head or suddenly crave wrestling grizzly bears. He's recording everything: your lifts, your moods, your sideburn growth. The side effects are unknown. The long-term risks are complete mystery. But, hey, you're in your 20s and indestructible. What could go wrong? At first, the results are almost magical. Your strength goes through the roof. Workouts that used to leave you sprawled on the gym floor are now just the warm-up. Your teammates start noticing that you're not just out lifting them, you're out recovering them. You bounce back from injuries with alarming speed. Ziegler himself can barely hide his excitement, adjusting your dosage with all the precision of a man trying to win a Nobel Prize and a Mr. Universe title at the same time. Word spreads quickly. Suddenly it's not just you. Half the weight room is lining up for Ziegler's latest supplement. The American powerlifting team, once known for grit and thick moustaches, is now also known for their suspiciously improved performance and ever thicker necks. Ziegler's diary is filling up with notes: more energy, some acne, one case of severe optimism. He encourages honest feedback, but everyone is too busy breaking personal records and quietly worrying about what's happening to their hairlines. Of course, not everyone is thrilled. The FDA, never one to miss a party, starts poking around. Trainers and doctors argue over safety. The line between cutting edge and potential medical disaster is blurrier than ever. But for a moment it feels like anything is possible. Ziegler's little pill is reshaping American sports, and you're right at the heart of it. Still, in quieter moments, you wonder if it's all too good to be true. Ziegler cautions moderation, but the temptation to take just a little more, to get just a little bigger, a little faster, is strong. The locker room has become a pharmacy, and the secret handshake is now a discussion of cycles and stacking. The Soviets might have started the chemical arms race, but thanks to Dr. Ziegler, America is no longer watching from the sidelines. By the end of the season, you're stronger than you've ever been, but you're also starting to see the costs, strange aches, unpredictable moods, and the dawning realization that you might be part of something no one really understands. Ziegler's wild ride is exhilarating, yes, but as you stare at that little bottle of Dianabol, you can't help but wonder if the bill will come due sooner than anyone expects. For now, you pop your pill, chalk your hands, and head for the squat rack, part athlete, part experiment, and fully committed to the wild new world of muscle science. It's the 1960s in California. Sun, sand, and muscle. You're flexing on Venice Beach, trying to get noticed by Hollywood, or at least a local surfboard manufacturer. Suddenly everyone's bigger, tanner, and carrying suspicious gym bags. Let's set the scene. The sun is blazing, the Pacific breeze smells like coconut oil and ambition, and you're surrounded by men with biceps that cast actual shadows. The only thing more popular than a pair of mirrored sunglasses is a well-oiled six-pack. You're standing on the legendary Muscle Beach, ground zero for America's blossoming love affair, with getting absolutely massive. If you're not doing curls in the sand, are you even living? At first, it's all about the classics: push-ups, calisthenics, a diet of eggs, steak, and whatever the local diner won't question you for eating raw. The regulars are a mix of bodybuilders, gymnasts, and guys named techs who claim they've never skipped leg day. But lately, there's something different in the air, and it's not just the hair pomade. Guys you remember as lean and wiry last summer now look like they've been inflated with a bicycle pump. Their skin glistens with more than just sweat. It's a glossy sheen that whispers of mysterious ointments and maybe a little too much baby oil. Word gets around fast. Someone's cousin is dating a pharmacist. Someone else is experimenting with new vitamins from Germany. The whispers become shouts. Dianabol, Primobolan, the blue pills, the stuff that makes you wake up hungry and go to bed hungry too. It's not just the weight room where things are changing now. Even the beach volleyball guys are looking suspiciously beefy. The gyms around Venice become the new social clubs. Every corner is home to another legend in the making, another soon-to-be Mr. Something or other. The locker rooms buzz with gossip. Who's on what? Who's stacking what with what? And who's hiding what in the bottom of their gym bag? You quickly learn not to ask too many questions, unless you want to be treated to a 45-minute lecture on cycle timing by a guy whose neck is wider than your thigh. Hollywood starts to pay attention. A casting agent or two is always lurking by the squat racks, searching for the next big action star. The line between fitness and fame gets blurry, and soon the California look becomes not just desirable, but marketable. If you want to get noticed, you'd better be as big as a mailbox and twice as shiny. The supplement industry explodes. Powders, shakes, bars, pills. The labels get bolder, the promises more absurd, and the warning labels, well, those are still a few decades away. You'd think there would be some concern. But in the 60s, the vibe is freewheeling. The FDA is playing catch-up, and most guys figure if it comes in a bottle, it must be safe. Medical advice consists mostly of take with food, or don't tell your mother. The consequences? Those are for tomorrow. Right now, you're chasing the pump, and the attention of anyone holding a camera, a surfboard, or a phone number scribbled on a napkin. Competition is fierce, but camaraderie is real, at least on the surface. You spot old friends and new rivals, everyone pushing each other to lift heavier, flex harder, tan darker. The phrase "go big or go home" isn't just gym motivation, it's life philosophy. Everyone's looking for that magic edge, and if it comes in a pill or an ampule, well, that's just the price of progress. As the decade rolls on, the Muscle Beach look spreads across America. Small-town gyms start seeing bigger guys with even bigger ambitions. Magazines sell the dream to teenagers everywhere. Take this, eat that, lift more, become a legend. No one's quite sure where the line is anymore, or if there ever was one. The only rule is, don't fall behind. You end your day with a protein shake on the sand, muscles burning, ego slightly bruised, and dreams of stardom bouncing in your head. You can't help but wonder, is this really what health looks like? Or is it just another California illusion, bigger, glossier, and just a little more artificial with every passing tide? Either way, tomorrow's another day at Muscle Beach, and you'll be back, gym bag in hand, ready to chase the next impossible transformation. You've been drafted by the state. Your new training diet? Potatoes, optimism, and something unpronounceable dissolved in orange juice. Every medal comes with a side of paperwork and a lifetime supply of medical checkups. Welcome to East Germany, where talent identification means a government official shows up at your school, points at your calves and says, "You'll do." Your new home is a concrete sports camp that smells like boiled beets and ambition. You wake up each morning to the sound of a whistle and the faint hum of fluorescent lights, blinking above endless rows of bunk beds. There's a portrait of the party leader on the wall, watching you stretch. You suspect he's also watching you sleep. Training is a science and not the fun, try this at home kind. Every step, every rep, every calorie is tracked, logged, and possibly sent to a lab in Dresden for further analysis. The coaches look like they could bench press you for breakfast. The team doctors, they're never far away, always ready to measure, poke or prod. Performance is the national product. Your heart rate, your blood pressure, and occasionally your urine colour are of vital interest to the state. The real fun starts after breakfast when the supplement schedule is handed out. Yours reads like a chemical bingo card. Compound X, stimulant Y, and vitamin S, which you're told stands for special. No one ever explains exactly what's in the syringes. The best answer you get is, don't worry, it's all approved. For now. Sometimes the team doctor smiles in a way that makes you wonder if he knows something you don't, like the actual side effects, or maybe just your final exam scores. Your teammates, meanwhile, are changing right before your eyes. The swimmer who barely filled out his Speedo last year is suddenly a human dolphin. The shot putter who used to wheeze during warm-ups now has calves bigger than your head. The sprinter next to you shaves her face every morning and nobody says a word. Everybody's getting stronger, faster, and somehow just a little more paranoid. If you're lucky enough to win, the rewards are real, sort of. A medal means better rations, maybe a new radio, maybe even an apartment with fewer leaks. You march in parades, waving to crowds who cheer for you, and more importantly, for the party. But success comes at a cost. You can't talk about your training. You can't visit a Western country. You fill out endless forms, submit endless samples, and live with the sense that every room might be bugged by someone with a clipboard and an agenda. And the testing. Oh, the testing. Every month there's a new round of medical evaluations. You try not to ask what they're looking for, but everyone knows. The right balance of medals and plausible deniability. There are rumours of athletes retiring early for asking too many questions or for getting the wrong results on a blood test. The unofficial motto is, be the best but not too curious. Your family back home is proud but sometimes a little nervous. They've seen the stories, young athletes who suddenly disappear from the papers or whose health mysteriously fails before the next Olympics. You try not to think about it. You focus on the podium, the applause, the fleeting promise of glory. And you drink your orange juice every morning, ignoring the chemical tang and the way your reflection seems to change in the mirror week by week. At night, lying in your bunk, you wonder what it would be like to just run, jump, swim for the love of sport, not for a medal, not for a ration bonus, not for a government that treats you like a prize lab rat. But then the whistle blows again, and you remember, in East Germany, science is sport, and you're just another experiment in the great pursuit of perfection. Sleep tight. There's more optimism in your juice tomorrow. In the 1970s, you can't trust anyone's handshake. Was it just protein shakes? Or was there something extra in those gym towels? You start to believe the guy who claims his veins have veins. The era of disco and dubious haircuts is also the age of underground sports chemistry. You walk into the locker room, gym bag slung over your shoulder, and the first thing you notice is the air. A heady mix of aftershave, chalk, and the faint medicinal tang of something that definitely isn't menthol. There's always a guy in the corner swirling a milk jug of protein shake that looks suspiciously fluorescent, claiming it's his secret formula. There are whispers of vitamin S, either code name for steroids, and nobody can quite agree whether it's real, mythical, or simply a side effect of too many pre-workout pills. Everyone knows someone who's on. Some say it's the quiet guy with the tape on his nose, others say it's the linebacker who can deadlift a Volkswagen Beetle and still has time to grow a moustache between sets. You try to mind your own business, but it's hard when your bench partner's biceps are growing at the same rate as the urban legends. The locker room has become a breeding ground for paranoia and conspiracy. You overhear stories about athletes with secret stashes hidden in air vents, old-timers who swear by homebrewed injectables, and that one guy who claims to have gotten a prescription from a doctor who only operates out of bowling alleys. You're skeptical, but then again, the gains are hard to argue with. Guys are setting personal records weekly, smashing school bests, and recovering from injuries like they've got Wolverine's healing factor. No one wants to talk openly, but there are signs. A new rash of acne, the sudden rise in gym towels and opaque water bottles, guys with necks as wide as their waists, forearms crisscrossed with veins so prominent they could be mistaken for subway maps. Someone in the sauna is always bragging about a cycle, and you don't think he's talking about cardio. Rumours travel faster than a 40-yard dash. There's the tale of the guy who injected something Russian and turned green, the wrestler who grew a full beard in 2 weeks, and the coach who warned that vitamin S will shrink your enthusiasm. The gym is thick with bravado and bravely denied side effects. It's all natural, one lifter insists, as he struggles to squeeze into a t-shirt labelled XL, now with more stretch. Outside the gym, the stories get even wilder. Every supplement shop has a guy who sells something out of the back room. Local pharmacies report a suspicious uptick in sales of syringes and cotton swabs. Nobody trusts anyone's protein brownies at bake sales anymore. Even the high school football team mascot starts to look suspiciously ripped by homecoming. And then there's you, caught somewhere between skepticism and curiosity. You watch your friends bulk up at alarming rates, but you also hear the horror stories, mood swings, injuries that never heal, and whispers about what happens to your insides. For every legend about instant strength, there's a cautionary tale about a guy who can't stop sweating through his practice jersey, or whose voice dropped an octave and never came back. Still, the temptation lingers. After all, vitamin S promises exactly what every athlete secretly wants: results, respect, and a shortcut past the pain. The boundary between hard work and chemical help gets blurrier by the day, and everyone is waiting to see who gets caught, who gets bigger, and who gets the last laugh. In the end, you're left with more questions than answers, and a gym bag that's starting to look a little heavier than before. So you shrug, grab your towel, and head to the weight room, wondering if maybe, just maybe, there really is something in that shake after all. In the 1970s, the only thing stronger than the biceps were the myths themselves. You're in Montreal, surrounded by athletes who look like cartoon superheroes. For the first time, someone asks for a urine sample. Awkward. Welcome to the cat and mouse game that is modern anti-doping. The year is 1976, and the Summer Olympics have become less a friendly get-together of international athletes, and more a high-stakes science fair with medals on the line. You step into the Olympic Village and immediately notice that everyone is a little larger. Swimmers look like they could paddle through cement, shot putters have forearms the size of Christmas hams, and the cyclists have thighs that seem to bend the laws of denim. Everywhere you look, it's all jawlines, veins, and a suspicious lack of necks. Your own teammates are talking in code. Nobody says steroids, but phrases like cycle, stack, and the stuff from the east float through the dining hall with the air of plausible deniability. Someone jokes about not drinking the water, and you're not sure if he's worried about germs or missing out on whatever's been added to help recovery. It's not paranoia if they're actually out to get you, or at least out to check what's in your bloodstream. Because this year, the International Olympic Committee, IOC, has decided it's time to play sheriff. The new anti-doping tests are in place, and the rumours are already flying. Don't eat the poppy seed muffins, warns one coach. Don't even breathe near the East Germans. You laugh, but only a little. You're just trying to focus on your event when the call comes. Urine test. Now. Suddenly, you're herded into a tiny room with bright lights and a very official-looking man holding a clipboard. He gestures toward a cup with the seriousness of someone announcing nuclear launch codes. There's nowhere to hide. You do your business and try not to make eye contact. The whole thing feels surreal, especially when the man seals the sample like it's a priceless artifact and hustles it out of the room. Back in the village, it's all anyone can talk about. Some athletes are panicked, others are smug, and a few are already plotting ways to beat the system. The Canadian press runs headlines about the steroid Olympics, and the public starts to wonder if their favourite champions are in fact part chemistry experiment. You overhear a coach from a rival country quietly boasting that they planned for this and brought their own team of scientists. It's like a James Bond movie, except with more leotards and less subtlety. Performance on the field is just as intense. World records are falling left and right. There's a new normal in athletics, and it's huge, fast, and, if we're being honest, a little bit terrifying. You run your personal best, but so does everyone else, and by margins that make you question what's really possible on hard work alone. The applause is deafening, the TV cameras are everywhere, and yet every medal has a shadow. The shadow of suspicion, the unspoken question, how did they get so good? The game has changed. Now it's not just about being the fastest, strongest, or most skilled. It's about staying one step ahead of the testers, knowing which supplements are safe, which might get you banned, and who has the best cleanse before competition. Some athletes swear by cranberry juice, others pray to the patron saint of laboratory loopholes. The new national pastime is not just training, but strategizing for the bathroom. And so, the arms race continues. The IOC invents a new test. The athletes find a new workaround. Urine samples become part of the Olympic routine, awkward, unavoidable, and sometimes career-ending. You win your race, clutch your medal, and smile for the cameras, all while wondering if the next time you pee in a cup, your dreams will vanish with the sample. As the Montreal Olympics fade into history, you realise you've witnessed the dawn of a new era. The never-ending tug-of-war between human ambition and the rule-book. And in the end, you're left with one thought. Sometimes it's harder to outrun the test than the competition. It's 1988. You're in the stands as Ben Johnson smashes the 100-metre record and hours later becomes the world's fastest cautionary tale. Turns out speed comes at a price, and sometimes that price is a very public trip to the bathroom. Let's rewind to Seoul, South Korea Olympic Stadium. The sun is shining, the stands are packed, and every spectator in the house has goosebumps. You can feel the anticipation vibrating through your seat as the finalists settle into their blocks. The favourite, Ben Johnson, a human battering ram of muscle, sunglasses and quiet confidence. In the moments before the gun, the world seems to hold its breath. Then, bang! 8 runners explode from the blocks, legs churning, arms slicing, a blur of muscle and adrenaline down the track. What happens next is pure electricity. You're barely processing the sound of the starting gun before Johnson is halfway down the lane. In just 979 seconds, less time than it takes to microwave a slice of pizza, he barrels across the finish line, head and shoulders ahead of the fastest men alive. The scoreboard flashes the new world record. The crowd erupts. You're on your feet shouting, not just for the victory, but for the audacity of it. A performance that looks almost supernatural. Johnson stands, unblinking, almost as if he expected nothing less. Reporters, fans, even his competitors are stunned into awe. But the high doesn't last, because the real drama is still hiding behind closed doors, and more specifically in a tiny bathroom, under the glare of Olympic anti-doping officials. You, along with the rest of the world, soon learn about positive samples, stanozolol, and the nightmare of public scandal. News breaks like a thunderclap. Johnson has tested positive for banned substances. Medals are stripped. The record is erased. The hero becomes Exhibit A in a cautionary tale about the dark side of human ambition. The fallout is instantaneous and ruthless. The press, who just hours before were crafting headlines about the greatest sprinter in history, now pivot to exposés about cheating, laboratory secrecy, and the dirtiest race in Olympic history. Johnson's face is everywhere, on TVS, newspapers, the front page of every sports magazine. You can't escape it, even if you want to. For every fan, it's a gut-punch reminder that glory in sport can be fleeting, and that sometimes the real race is in the lab, not on the track. Back in the Olympic Village, paranoia takes hold. Athletes whisper in hallways, coaches exchange nervous glances, and suddenly every trip to the restroom feels like an audition for a very high-stakes reality show. You hear new phrases, masking agents, chain of custody, B-sample. For a generation of athletes, this isn't just a moment, it's a turning point. Trust is shattered, the rules are rewritten, the cat and mouse game between science and sport steps up to a whole new level. Meanwhile, the public reaction is a mix of disappointment and weird fascination. Kids who had posters of Johnson on their walls watch in confusion as their hero is pulled from the podium. Late-night comedians have a field day. The message is clear: win at all costs, and you risk losing everything, even the right to your own story. The world starts to wonder, how many other champions are just one test away from disgrace? For Johnson, the punishment is more than just losing a medal. It's a lifetime of suspicion and regret. Every interview, every appearance, every attempt at redemption circles back to those fateful seconds on the track and the choices made off it. He becomes a symbol, not of speed, but of caution, of how the pursuit of greatness can spiral into downfall, and you, sitting in the stands, watching it all unfold, realize you've witnessed a new era in sports. Not just faster times or stronger athletes, but the dawn of a new kind of vigilance, a world where, for every cheer, there's a shadow. A lesson written not just in split seconds, but in samples, science, and the price of crossing the finish line too fast. Forget the Olympics. Down at your local gym, guys are swapping cycles and recipes like grandma's soup. One wrong move, and your performance enhancer is just floor cleaner in a new bottle. It's the 1980s, and the fitness boom is in full swing. Leg warmers are in, and so are questionable ideas about science. At your neighbourhood gym, a place that smells like rubber mats, old socks, and hope, everyone wants to be bigger, faster, and more defined. But not everyone has access to world-class coaches or government-funded chemists. So what's a motivated, mildly reckless amateur to do? That's right. Welcome to the wild world of homebrew enhancement. where the only thing thicker than the protein shakes is the air of plausible deniability. You walk into the gym and spot the usual cast of characters. There's the guy who claims he benched 400 raw, no witnesses obviously, the lifter who swears by raw eggs and cod liver oil, and the new guy who definitely read one too many muscle magazines. But lately, the conversation has shifted from, "Do you even lift, bro?" to "What's your cycle, bro?" Empty vials and unmarked pill bottles start appearing in gym bags. Every other day, someone corners you to whisper about a friend in Mexico or a lab in Jersey who can hook you up with the good stuff, discreetly packaged in boxes marked fish antibiotics or not for human consumption. Knowledge is passed down like sacred lore, mostly in the form of photocopied guides and handwritten notes with cycles, dosages and stern warnings. Never take more than 2 cc's. If you can't pronounce it, maybe don't inject it, and occasionally don't trust Rick's homemade blend. Last time it left Steve with hiccups for a week. Advice is always free, whether you want it or not, and usually delivered with the confidence of someone who definitely got a C in high school chemistry. You quickly realise that science here is more art than discipline. Doses are guessed, mixtures are improvised, and the bravest souls are trying stacks that would make a pharmacist cry. You hear legends of the bro-chemist, the guy with a shelf of glassware in his basement, a fridge full of mystery vials, and zero medical training. For every guy who claims to have made massive gains, there's another who ended up in the ER with a mysterious rash or a bicep that now resembles a small pumpkin. It's not just the guys either. Ambitious women start showing up to powerlifting meets, fueled by rumours of gentler options, mild orals, fat burners, and the ever-present question of what's actually in those imported ampules. Most claim it's all natural, most are lying. In this new era, everyone's after an edge, and nobody wants to fall behind. The competitive spirit of sport, filtered through the haze of poor decisions, leads to an arms race fought not on the field, but at the squat rack and in the bathroom mirror. Of course, things don't always go as planned. There are stories of tainted batches, labels falling off, or products that turn out to be nothing but sesame oil and hope. Some gym rats start growing hair in unexpected places. Others find their mood swinging more wildly than their max deadlift. If anyone ends up at the doctor, there's a lot of awkward silence, followed by the phrase, "I just wanted to get stronger." Side effects become punchlines, and every weird symptom is brushed off with a laugh. "Yeah, your skin's a little yellow, but look at those quads." Despite the risks, the homebrew movement catches on. Muscle magazines publish cycles next to recipes for tuna casserole. Late-night TV hawks miracle supplements with disclaimers the length of a phone book. Nobody asks too many questions, except when something actually works. In those rare moments, the gym erupts in speculation, envy, and a line at the water fountain long enough to rival Disneyland. So you go home, check your own stash, and wonder if this is genius or madness. You probably don't care, because tomorrow is leg day, and you, like everyone else in the world of homebrew science, are chasing one more rep, one more inch, and maybe, just maybe, the secret to finally becoming the guy everyone asks for advice. Even if your only real advice should be, don't try this at home, you're a linebacker in the 1980s, you eat steak, sleep in a cryotherapy chamber, and the team doctor has you on a first-name basis. The only thing scarier than your biceps is the pharmacy bill. Let's set the stage. America is obsessed with big hair, bigger cars, and the biggest humans it can squeeze onto a football field. Every Sunday, millions tune in not just for touchdowns, but for hits that sound like two refrigerators colliding at highway speed. The average offensive lineman has a neck circumference that rivals a redwood, and the defensive line looks like it was drafted straight from a Marvel comic book. The rules are simple: hit hard, run fast, and never ever show weakness, on the field or off. In the locker room, the atmosphere is a blend of sweat, pain relief ointment, and a growing pharmaceutical funk. You remember when training camp was just about wind sprints and bench presses, but now it's also about protocols. Every position group seems to have its own recovery stack. You hear terms like Decker, D-Bowl, and the Clear, thrown around with the same casualness as Pass the Salt. The rookie is already on a first-name basis with a team pharmacist. The veterans are swapping tips on how to avoid acne and keep their hairlines while adding 5 pounds of muscle before pre-season. The results? You're bigger, faster, and somehow hungrier. Weight rooms are packed at all hours, with guys obsessing over numbers and personal bests. The old saying was pain is temporary, pride is forever, but now it's more like pain is temporary, but this injection schedule is forever. Nobody asks where the vials come from, and nobody wants to be the one not keeping up. The games are brutal. Helmet-to-helmet hits echo through stadiums, and the sound of pads colliding is louder than the marching band. Even practice squad players look like they were carved out of granite and fed nothing but protein shakes and raw ambition. You start to notice changes outside of football too. Sleep gets weird. Your appetite turns into something out of a cartoon, and you have a sudden, irrational anger toward the vending machine when it gets stuck. There's a new kind of camaraderie in the locker room, a brotherhood built on trust, pain, and the unspoken agreement that what happens in the training room stays there. The coaches know, the doctors know, even the journalists are starting to suspect, but nobody wants to ruin the party. The NFL is booming, TV ratings are sky high, and every fan wants to see bigger hits, longer throws, and record-breaking seasons. Of course, the toll is real, even if no one wants to talk about it. Knees explode, shoulders tear, and the average career is still painfully short, just long enough to buy a nice car and maybe a new knee. Side effects creep in, mysterious swelling, sudden mood swings, hair appearing in places it didn't belong, but you push through, because there's always someone younger and hungrier behind you. Injuries are patched up with cortisone, tape, and, when necessary, a round of pills that might as well come with a question mark on the label. The league starts whispering about testing and wellness policies, but everyone knows the truth. For most of the 1980s, the only real limit is how much your body can handle before it starts to break down. Retired players joke about their glory days and their medicine cabinets. Sports writers eventually break the story, but by then the damage is done. The fans are shocked, but only a little. The games just look too good to be true, so you walk out onto the field armoured in plastic, muscle and modern medicine. The lights are blinding, the crowd is roaring, and for a few glorious moments you feel untouchable. In the NFL's steroid era, greatness is measured in yards, pounds and risk tolerance. You may not last forever, but for now, you're unstoppable. Even if it means carrying a pharmacy in your gym bag and hoping nobody ever checks your supplement stack. It's 1998. America is glued to the home run race. You're in the crowd trying to decide if Maguire's bat is bigger than your entire torso. Every ball that leaves the park is a reminder. Science can be fun and mildly terrifying. The air at the ballpark is electric, popcorn, sweat, sunscreen and hope. You scan the outfield seats, which are packed with kids wielding oversized gloves and dads holding camcorders the size of car batteries. Everyone is craning for a glimpse of history. Mark Maguire steps to the plate, forearms like tree trunks, calves like telephone poles, his helmet barely containing a head that looks suspiciously ready for a Marvel cameo. Sammy Sosa, meanwhile, is grinning in the dugout, swinging 3 bats at once like he's auditioning for a superhero franchise. The home run race isn't just a battle of athletes, it's a spectacle of size, power, and, as history will eventually reveal, the most ambitious chemistry experiment in American sports. You settle in as Maguire eyes the pitcher. There's a hush. Then crack, the ball sails into the stratosphere, a tiny white dot against the blue, and the stadium erupts like a volcano in denim shorts. The scoreboard lights up, the flashbulbs go off, and you're left staring at the spot where the ball left the park, wondering if it'll ever actually come down. Minutes later, Sosa gets his turn and launches one even farther, smiling so wide you're pretty sure he could power a small city with sheer enthusiasm alone. All summer, it's like this. Dinger after dinger, a parade of baseballs cleared for takeoff. SportsCenter runs nothing but home run highlights. Kids start demanding Maguire and Sosa-branded bats for Christmas. Even your grandma, who thinks baseball peaked with Ty Cobb, is asking if you've seen the big fellas on TV. The nation is hypnotized, swept up in a feel-good fever that makes the previous decade's scandals fade away like a bad dream. But you can't help noticing a few odd details. The players' jerseys are tighter, their voices a bit gruffer, and their chins have started to look more heroic. The bottles in the dugout are labelled supplements, but no one is quite sure what's inside. The press keeps asking about andro, creatine and nutritional protocols. Maguire dodges questions with a smile and are just trying to help the team. Sosa points at the sky, thanks his family, and promises to keep the good times rolling. Behind the scenes, the whispers grow louder. Is it the weights, the diet, or is there something in the water, or more likely in the clubhouse fridge? A congressional hearing seems unthinkable, but in hindsight, everyone wonders why it took so long to arrive. For now, though, the fans are too busy celebrating to care. Baseball needed a miracle after the 1994 strike, and the Bash Brothers delivered, serving up hope, joy, and home runs on a nightly basis. As the season barrels toward its epic finish, you're swept up in the narrative. Sosa hits 66, Maguire slugs 70, and the record books are rewritten in real time. Every swing, every trot around the bases, every high five at home plate becomes part of the mythos. You go home and try to mimic their swings in the backyard, nearly pulling a muscle in the process, but feeling like maybe, just maybe, magic is possible. Of course, the truth arrives, as it always does, with a thud. Tests, hearings, and headlines reveal what everyone already suspected but pretended not to know. The Summer of Dingers was as much a science project as a sporting event. Still, for a few months, baseball was fun again. You cheered, you gasped, you watched two men defy gravity and maybe logic in the most entertaining chemistry experiment ever televised. Now, every time you see a home run, you remember the Bash Brothers and the wild, wonderful summer when everyone wanted to believe. Science can be fun, and yes, mildly terrifying. Cycling has its own brand of magic. You're on a bike in the French Alps, legs burning, and someone offers you a recovery drink with a side of medical equipment. Suddenly everyone's a hematologist. The year is the early 2000s. You're wearing spandex that leaves nothing to the imagination, perched on a racing bike that costs more than your car, and surrounded by the best endurance athletes on Earth. The Tour de France is in full swing, and the world is obsessed with a story so dramatic, so improbable, that it feels like Hollywood might have made it up on a dare. Lance Armstrong, cancer survivor, American hero, and the man whose quads have been declared a national landmark, is dominating the race, again. Every time he climbs a mountain, people talk about miracles. But on this mountain, miracles come with a receipt. You pedal alongside your teammates, all pretending not to notice the little red cooler carried by the soigneurs. At every rest stop, there's talk about oxygen saturation, hematocrit levels, and EPO microdosing. The lines between science, medicine, and performance are getting blurrier than the French countryside whizzing by at 40 kilometers per hour. Recovery drinks taste suspiciously medical. Everyone claims it's just vitamins, but the amount of medical paraphernalia in the team van makes you wonder if you've accidentally signed up for med school. Rumours swirl as thick as the mountain fog. You hear about blood bags, secret transfusions in hotel rooms, and midnight visits from doctors who always seem to be on vacation during the off-season. You're told not to ask questions. Just focus on your cadence, they say. Leave the science to us. And so you do, even as you start to feel like every pedal stroke is powered by equal parts hope and chemistry. Armstrong, meanwhile, is a force of nature. He attacks the climbs, crushes the time trials, and shrugs off his rivals with a steely glare and a heart rate that barely budges. His comeback from cancer is legendary, and he's become the face of perseverance, determination, and, let's be honest, pharmaceutical innovation. Sponsors line up, fans paint "Go Lance" on the roads, and live-strung wristbands become as common as chain grease. But even as the crowd cheers, the peloton is restless. Some riders drop out with mystery illnesses, while others turn in performances that defy everything you learned in biology class. You overhear whispers about dope tests and masking agents. When the testers arrive, there's a sudden flurry of discarded syringes and nervous jokes. You start to realise that, in this race, the true test isn't just who can ride the fastest, it's who can stay one step ahead of the latest detection methods. You crash at night in a hotel room, legs throbbing, mind racing. Your roommate is already asleep, IV dangling from his arm like it's just another part of the training plan. You stare at the ceiling, replaying the day's climbs, wondering who's really winning, the athletes, the doctors, or the science experiment in the team bus's refrigerator. Eventually the truth comes out. The headlines hit like a sprint finish. Doping scandal rocks cycling. Armstrong is stripped of his titles, sponsors flee, and a generation of fans is left wondering if they ever really saw a fair race. Teammates confess, doctors are interviewed, and suddenly everyone has an opinion about blood viscosity and ethics. But the strangest thing, even after the fall, people still argue. Some defend Armstrong as the greatest of all time, arguing that everyone was doing it. Others condemn the era as a dark chapter, proof that ambition, and maybe a little saline solution, can warp the very idea of sport. You hang up your helmet and look at the bike in your garage. You remember the feeling of flight, the pain, the hope, the weird taste of that recovery drink. In cycling, as in life, sometimes the road to glory is a winding, complicated mess, fueled by dreams, science, and a collective willingness to believe in the impossible, even if, in the end, the dream came with a transfusion bag and a broken heart. You thought things couldn't get weirder, but the 2000s bring a new breed of substances, designer steroids. You're Googling ingredients at 2 a.m, wondering if the next safe supplement is just a science fair project gone rogue. Welcome to the new millennium, where the line between science and science fiction is blurring faster than ever, especially at your local gym. You're flipping through fitness magazines and seeing advertisements for powders and pills with names like Super Bulk 9000 and Anabolic Extreme. Each one claims to be completely legal, totally safe, and definitely not the reason your neighbour's dog is suddenly so muscular. The old school stuff is out. Today it's all about designer performance, chemical cocktails tailored by underground labs, with the sort of branding you'd expect from energy drinks or late-night infomercials. It's not just the branding that's creative. Now you're faced with ingredients lists that look like a game of Scrabble gone terribly wrong. Methyltrianolone, tetrahydrogestrinone, and a few compounds that sound suspiciously like Marvel villains. The premise: if the authorities haven't banned it yet, it's fair game. These substances are engineered in clandestine labs, sometimes just a basement with a Bunsen burner and a dream, specifically to stay one step ahead of drug tests and regulations. In the gym, word spreads about the next big thing. There's always a guy who claims to know a chemist who knows a guy who used to work for a supplement company. He's selling vials out of his trunk and swearing by the gains, bigger muscles, faster recovery, and best of all, undetectable by current tests. You start to hear about pro-hormones, selective androgen receptor modulators, and mysterious grey market powders that technically aren't illegal yet. You become an amateur detective. You spend your nights trawling bodybuilding forums and reading reviews from people with usernames like MassMonster98 and Ripped Dad Bod. The advice is wild and wildly inconsistent. Some guys say, I gained 20 pounds of lean muscle in 6 weeks, no side effects, A+++ would buy again. Others share horror stories of spontaneous nosebleeds, hair loss, and organs making strange noises. Nobody seems to have gone through a real clinical trial, just the trial of trying not to turn orange or grow a third eyebrow. Supplement stores jump on the trend, stocking shelves with products that skirt the law by tweaking a molecule here and a syllable there. The FDA plays a constant game of whack-a-mole. As soon as one designer drug gets banned, a new, slightly modified version pops up with a shinier label and a bolder claim. For every bottle of Tester Rampage pulled from the shelves, 2 more appear, each promising that this time your gains will be explosive, but the risks are real, and sometimes terrifying. You hear stories of amateur athletes winding up in emergency rooms with livers that look like overcooked lasagna. Some users discover the hard way that just because a supplement isn't banned doesn't mean it won't leave you with permanent side effects, a questionable moustache, or a ban from the local rec league. The science is moving so fast that even the researchers can't keep up. You start to wonder if you're part of a giant unregulated experiment, one where the long-term results might not show up until years, and a lot of blood work, later. Even the pros get caught in the web. High-profile doping scandals make headlines. Congressional hearings drag in supplement company execs and big-name athletes who suddenly develop very selective memories about their supplement use. The phrase, "I thought it was just flaxseed oil," becomes a punchline and a legal defense. And so you find yourself, late at night, staring at your phone, weighing the risks and rewards of the latest miracle powder. You dream of easy gains and overnight transformation, but can't help wondering what's actually in the bottle. In the end, you realize that the world of designer steroids is less about science and more about playing chemical roulette. A wild ride where you might just wake up with the body of your dreams, or at least a great story for your next doctor's visit. You're sweating under a fluorescent light, explaining to investigators why your vitamin bottle says for research purposes only. The BALCO bust proves that sometimes your worst enemy is the guy in the lab coat. It's the early 2000s, and the world of elite sports is about to get a crash course in laboratory drama. Welcome to the Bay Area Laboratory Cooperative BALCO, a place that sounds like it should make granola bars, but actually makes headlines, careers, and a lot of lawyers very busy. If you're an athlete with big dreams, you're on the hunt for that elusive edge. You've heard the whispers. There's a place in California where the supplements are a little more custom, the science a little more creative, and the results almost too good to be legal. Spoiler, they are. You walk into BALCO's nondescript office, expecting maybe a nice multivitamin. What you get instead is a crash course in bioengineering, administered by Victor Conte, a man who knows more about hormones than your high school health teacher, your family doctor, and your gym buddy combined. There are vials, pills, and powders with names like the Clear and the Cream, which sound like rejected soda flavours, but promise to beat every known drug test. Conte smiles like a guy who knows the secret to the universe, and maybe just found a new one. Soon, you're on a first-name basis with your sports scientist. Your training routine now includes a chemistry set, a calendar of microdosing schedules, and regular check-ins to make sure your testosterone ratios stay just south of suspicious. You learn to pee in a cup like it's an Olympic event. You hear stories about world-class sprinters getting new personal bests overnight, football players returning from injury as if by magic, and records falling like dominoes with each fresh shipment from the lab. For a while, life is good. You're faster, stronger, and more explosive than you've ever been. Agents call, sponsors notice, and every meet is a new opportunity. Sure, you sometimes wonder about the long-term effects, but the only side effect you're interested in right now is winning. Besides, everyone seems to be in on it. Track stars, baseball legends, even a handful of NFL linemen who suddenly seem to fit their uniforms a little too well. But the good times can't last. It starts with a single anonymous tip, then a shipment that catches the attention of a very bored customs agent. Suddenly, the FBI is knocking on the door, and routine testing takes on a whole new meaning. Investigators start looking through your gym bag, your medical records, and your emails, especially the ones titled Private Supplement Advice. If you're lucky, all they find is protein powder. If you're unlucky, well, let's just say you're going to need a lawyer. The BALCO bust blows the doors off the world of designer doping. Suddenly everyone is talking about THG, undetectable steroids, and performance enhancement. Congressional hearings follow, starring athletes who were national heroes just months ago, now asked to explain why their signatures are on shipping invoices for research chemicals. Reporters have a field day. Late-night comedians invent punchlines about cream that will haunt you for years. And then come the consequences. Medals are stripped, records are wiped, endorsements vanish. You're left trying to explain to your family, your fans, and a very skeptical press why your vitamin bottle was labelled for research purposes only. The BALCO scandal is a cold reminder. In the arms race between athletes and the rulebook, sometimes the guy in the white coat is running his own race. You stand in the interrogation room, heartbeat thumping, knowing the age of innocence is over. The new reality. In the world of modern sport, the real finish line is always moving, and sometimes it's just one subpoena away. You're watching the US Congress grill famous sluggers about what was or wasn't in their bodies. It's part soap opera, part infomercial, and every denial sounds like a bad ad for multivitamins. Welcome to 2005, where America's pastime becomes America's spectacle. You tune in to C-SPAN expecting the usual sea of suits and procedural boredom. But today, the halls of Congress are packed. Reporters jostle for camera angles, lawmakers polish their righteous indignation, and you can almost smell the mixture of hairspray, cheap coffee, and the collective anxiety of half the major leagues. Baseball's biggest stars are on trial, not for crimes, but for the crime of being suspiciously jacked and just a little too good at hitting balls into the next zip code. On the witness table, the titans of the game. Mark McGuire, who once made biceps fashionable for middle-aged dads everywhere, looks deeply uncomfortable. Sammy Sosa, charm at full blast, suddenly claims he's forgotten how to speak English. Rafael Palmeiro, mustache quivering, points a finger and swears he's never touched the stuff, only to be outed months later by his own failed test. Behind them, a row of lawyers and agents take notes, and you get the feeling they'd rather be anywhere else, including infield practice without a glove. Congressmen take turns asking questions that sound like they were written by the local Little League coach. Have you ever taken steroids? What did you think you were injecting? Do you regret hitting 62 home runs in a single season? The players offer up answers as slippery as a rosin bag in July. I can't recall. That was just flaxseed oil. I'm not here to talk about the past. For once you realise there's more dodging in this room than there ever was in the batter's box. The spectacle is part earnest investigation, part grandstanding, and all American melodrama. Congress wants answers, or at least the appearance of answers. The networks want ratings. Fans want reassurance that the game they grew up loving wasn't just a science experiment in pinstripes. But as you watch, you notice that the truth is less a home run and more a series of fouls, evasive, technical, and somehow always landing just out of bounds. Outside the hearing room, baseball is in damage control mode. The commissioner mumbles about the integrity of the game. Sports writers dig up every old interview, photo, and supplement receipt. Parents start asking awkward questions about their kids' creatine gummies. Little League coaches quietly ban anything that's not an orange slice or a Capri Sun. Suddenly the cream and the clear are household terms, and not even your grandma believes the player's nutrition was all chicken and brown rice. But the circus isn't just about blame, it's about public penance and the theatre of confession. Some players issue teary apologies, others hold press conferences in which they sort of apologise for maybe thinking about considering the possibility of ever having used something. The American public gets to decide who is contrite, who is villainous, and who is just really, really bad at keeping a straight face under oath. Meanwhile, Congress passes new testing laws, MLB beefs up its policy, and a generation of players suddenly discovers food allergies to anything that comes in a syringe. But even as the spectacle fades, the legacy lingers. Records remain in the books, asterisks flutter in the margins, and every new home run king gets a little extra scrutiny. For fans, it's a bittersweet reminder. Baseball is still magical, but sometimes the magic is just good old-fashioned chemistry. As the cameras pan out and lawmakers adjourn, you're left with a final thought. In America, the only thing more entertaining than a home run derby is a congressional hearing about what made it possible. And the only thing harder than hitting a 95-met fastball is giving a straight answer in front of Congress. Welcome to the aftermath. You're staring at the mirror, counting new muscles, but also new problems. Acne, mood swings, the sudden urge to yell at strangers in traffic. Turns out every shortcut has a toll booth. You never really pictured this side of the story. The part where your jaw's clenched, your temples are pounding, and your deodorant has thrown in the towel. Sure, you chase the gains, chiseled shoulders, thighs that could crush walnuts, the sense of invincibility every time you threw a new plate on the bar. You expected a bit of soreness, maybe a pulled muscle or two. You didn't expect to suddenly become the angriest person at the drive-thru because someone ordered the last curly fries. But here you are. Your friends start noticing before you do. You're looking bigger, they say, as if it's a compliment, but with a hint of concern. Your mum asks if you're sleeping enough. You shrug her off, chug another recovery shake, and decide the secret to happiness is just one more cycle away. The results keep coming. The shirts get tighter, the lifts go up, but your patience goes down. You find yourself snapping at the TV remote, at your dog, at absolutely nothing. Someone cuts you off in traffic and suddenly you understand why the Incredible Hulk never carpooled. Then come the other changes. Your skin breaks out like it's reliving high school with a vengeance. Your back looks like it lost a fight with a deep fryer. Some days you feel unstoppable. Other days, you're so tired you want to nap between reps. You wake up sweating, heart pounding, convinced you just ran a marathon in your sleep. Your hairline starts to migrate slowly but determinedly toward the back of your head. You check your reflection for new growth, muscle, hair, or, heaven forbid, a third eyebrow. The locker room is full of whispered advice. It's normal, man. Just drink more water. Try this stuff. My cousin gets it from Eastern Europe. If your blood pressure goes up, just run it off. There's a constant undercurrent of denial. Bro, you're just overtraining, as if that explains the sudden emotional roller coaster or why you can't remember where you parked your car. For women, the side effects come with a cruel double standard. Suddenly, your voice drops, your jaw sharpens, and your monthly cycle starts to resemble a weather forecast, unpredictable, occasionally stormy, and likely to surprise you at the worst moment. Society isn't kind. People stare. Some whisper. Others just ask outright, is it worth it? Doctors aren't much help. You schedule a checkup and the physician raises an eyebrow at your blood work. Your liver enzymes are up, your cholesterol is down, the good kind, and your heart is sending passive-aggressive notes about taking it easy. You mumble something about protein powder and genetics, and the doctor sighs, because they've heard it all before. And then there's the emotional toll. The letdown after a cycle ends is more than just physical. The energy fades, the muscles soften, and you start to wonder if the new you was ever really you at all. There are stories in the gym of guys who chased the next big cycle and lost themselves along the way. Injuries that never healed, relationships that couldn't handle the volatility, dreams that morphed from Olympic gold to just feeling normal again. You ask yourself if the sacrifice was worth it. The applause fades, the records get broken, and the only thing you can count on is the quiet truth staring back at you in the mirror. Every shortcut, every edge, every gamble comes with a bill. Sometimes it's just acne and mood swings. Sometimes it's more. Always, it's a reminder that the price of gold is never just measured in medals. You're a female sprinter in East Germany, 1984. Your voice drops an octave, your times drop by a second, and the doctors just call it progress. Medals pile up. So do questions. Your journey begins in a world where sporting success is national policy, not just personal achievement. The government has handpicked you, along with hundreds of other promising girls, for the state plan. You arrive at the training centre as a teenager, ponytail swinging, unaware that soon you'll be breaking records and social norms faster than anyone imagined. Coaches and doctors line up to weigh, measure and monitor every aspect of your body. You have potential, they say. We can help you find it. At first the changes are subtle, more time on the track, new weights in the gym, extra nutritional support at meals. You don't ask questions because the price for curiosity is a spot on the bench. Pills appear next to your orange juice, sometimes pink, sometimes blue, always handed out with a practiced smile. Vitamins, the trainer says, for recovery, for growth, for success. You swallow them, trusting the adults who promise you the podium. Then come the physical shifts. You're gaining muscle at a rate that makes your old PE teacher blink. Your shoulders broaden, your jaw sets. You run faster, but your reflection in the mirror seems to be running in the opposite direction, towards something you don't quite recognize. Your voice deepens. The locker room becomes a strange mix of pride and whispers. You're getting stronger, one girl marvels, while another frowns at her own sprouting chin hair. Your times drop by tenths of a second, then by full seconds. World class, they say. Unbeatable. You're lauded as a hero of the socialist state, trotted out at press conferences, presented with medals by men in suits who call you an example for all women. But there are new complications. Your cycle disappears. Your moods shift with the wind. The people closest to you notice, even if the coaches pretend not to. Every trip to the doctor is a mixture of hope and dread. They draw blood, measure hormone levels, adjust your supplement plan. You overhear one doctor call it the androgen edge. Another calls it progress. They tell you not to worry, that these changes are temporary. You're not so sure. In private, you swap stories with teammates about the new hair, the jaw pain, the sudden strength, the strange, inexplicable sadness that sometimes follows a gold medal. The world outside sees only the finish line. The press writes glowing stories about the new breed of female champions. No one mentions the pills, or the injections, or the nights when you lie awake staring at the ceiling, wondering what it will all cost. You learn to answer questions carefully. I train hard, you say. I'm proud to represent my country. The truth is more complicated, a secret language spoken only in whispers after the stadium lights go out. Years later, as the state secrets are exposed, you'll read headlines about systematic doping and state-sponsored abuse. Former coaches are interviewed, medical files are published. Some athletes demand justice. Others stay silent, trying to move on. You look at the medals in your drawer, heavy with achievement, heavier with questions. In the end, the androgen edge made you faster, stronger, and in the eyes of your country, a champion. But it also changed you in ways that no stopwatch could ever record. You learned that the real cost of chasing gold isn't measured in seconds, but in selfhood, and that sometimes winning means losing pieces of yourself along the way. It's the modern era. You're still peeing in cups, still dodging awkward questions from reporters, and everyone's claiming to be clean. But in a world obsessed with winning, can anyone really know for sure? The stadiums are bigger, the TV contracts are worth billions, and the shoes alone have more technology than the Apollo space program. But some things haven't changed. You wake up in the Olympic Village to the sound of nerves and nationalism, grab a breakfast that's mostly carbs and anxiety, and check your schedule for the day. Random drug test is penciled in between practice and pretending you're not stressed. You sigh and reach for your water bottle, secretly grateful you remembered to only take the multivitamins you can spell. You're surrounded by the best athletes from every corner of the globe, men and women who've trained their whole lives for this. Some are wide-eyed rookies, others look like they've been living at altitude since childhood. But there's an edge to every conversation, an unspoken understanding that every performance is under a microscope, both figuratively and, after the event, quite literally. You hear the stories. The medal favourite who tested positive for a banned substance she can't pronounce, the runner whose gold medal vanished over a contaminated supplement, the coach who gives side-eye to anything that looks even remotely like a protein shake. The media is relentless. Microphones, cameras and smartphones are everywhere. "How confident are you that the sport is clean?" asks the reporter. You nod, smile and recite your rehearsed answer, knowing full well that no one entirely believes you. Because even if you're clean, there's always suspicion. The technology for cheating gets better, but so do the tests. It's a cold war of biology, and you're the battleground. The testers themselves are a curious bunch. They appear at the least convenient times, mid-lunch, mid-nap, mid-thought. You follow them to a windowless room, fill out paperwork, and then, with a level of awkwardness reserved for only the most special moments in life, hand over a cup of your finest work. Some athletes joke about it. Others just look tired. For a lucky few, it's routine. For others, it's a reminder that glory is never really yours until you've passed the lab. There are rules upon rules. The list of banned substances is longer than some athletes' biographies. Supplements are checked, rechecked, and, in the end, still a gamble. Trainers swap stories about products pulled off shelves, sudden health scares, and that time a batch of vitamins was found to contain traces of something you shouldn't take if you want to keep your medal. The line between what's legal, what's ethical, and what's just smart training is as blurry as ever. The temptation, though, is everywhere. Every year someone gets caught with something new, some cutting-edge compound, some genetic tweak, some method that was, until yesterday, considered impossible. Everyone claims surprise. Nobody's really shocked. Winning is as addictive as anything you can put in a needle. And with the money and fame on the line, it's no wonder the envelope keeps getting pushed. Yet, the spirit of the games persists. Athletes shake hands, swap pins, and trade stories about training camps and dreams. They laugh, they cry, they compete. Most do it the right way, fighting not just their opponents, but the ever-present temptation to take the easy road. And maybe that's the real Olympic spirit. Not just faster, higher, stronger, but also more honest, more transparent and more determined to prove that, sometimes, greatness really can be earned the hard way. And as you walk out onto the track, the pool deck, or the mat, you realise you're not just racing against the clock or your competition, you're racing against doubt itself. In the Olympics today, the ultimate victory might just be going home with nothing but memories, a medal, and a conscience as clean as your drug test. Fed up with needles? You join the Natural League. Every contest is a festival of accusations and polygraph tests. You swear you're clean, but so does everyone else loudly and often. Welcome to the world of natural bodybuilding, a land where the biceps are big, the veins are visible, and the trust issues run even deeper than the squat racks. You arrive at your first natty contest feeling hopeful, a little self-righteous, and maybe just a bit defensive. The other competitors eye you like you're here to sell them a used car. Everyone is quick to announce, "I'm 100% clean, bro," which ironically is something no one said back in the days when half the supplements were labelled for veterinary use only. Backstage, the vibe is part science fair, part high-stakes poker night. There's a pre-show ritual, polygraph exams, urine samples, and long meandering conversations about lifetime natty status. Someone tells you about the latest drying protocol, another brags about never touching the gear, and someone else swears that chewing parsley boosts testosterone. If you squint, it almost feels like a health food convention, except everyone's eating cold chicken breast out of Tupperware and glancing suspiciously at their competitor's muscle definition. The judging process itself is a masterclass in tension. One moment you're flexing in front of a panel of stone-faced experts, the next you're explaining your supplement stack like you're defending a PhD dissertation. I use creatine, BCAAs, and lots of sleep, you say. The judges nod, but you can see in their eyes that they've heard every story before. They hand you a cup for your urine test and a waiver for your polygraph. Random testing, they assure you. You smile, knowing the only thing truly random is whose story anyone actually believes. The polygraph session is its own brand of theatre. You sit in a chair, wires attached to your fingers, and a man who looks like he's seen it all asks you, "Have you ever taken steroids, SARMs, or anything on this 3-page list of banned substances?" You say no, trying not to picture every pre-workout you've ever taken. The machine buzzes, the examiner frowns, and you briefly reconsider your entire supplement history. Some guys pass, some fail, and everybody insists the tests are rigged, unless they win, in which case the process was very fair and scientific. Outside the testing rooms, rumours swirl like protein powder in a shaker cup. "Did you see the size of that guy's traps?" whispers one competitor. "There's no way he's natty." You smile politely, while mentally tallying up your macros and making a silent pact never to skip leg day again. Every time a new champion is crowned, the forums light up with debates, accusations, and grainy zoom-ins on questionable jawlines. Someone inevitably posts, "If you have to say you're natural, you probably aren't." But for all the suspicion, there's genuine camaraderie too. The struggle is real. The endless meal prep, the sore joints, the slow and sometimes invisible progress. You swap training tips and commiserate about the pain of watching everyone else eat pizza. Some competitors are in it for health, others for the challenge, but everyone secretly dreams of being the rare, undisputed real deal. When the show's over, you flex for photos, shake hands, and joke about the next drug test. For a brief moment, you all share a bond forged in sweat, spinach, and the stubborn belief that muscle is still possible without a PhD in pharmacy. As you leave the venue, trophy or not, you're already thinking about the next show. Natural bodybuilding is tough, thankless, and sometimes a little ridiculous. But it's also a celebration, a stubborn stand in a world that loves shortcuts. And if you have to say you're natural, well, at least you're not alone in saying it. You're 16. Your friends are trading tips from fitness influencers who may or may not be sponsored by supplement brands that don't exist. Your gym teacher just wants to retire. It's the era of TikTok and Snapchat, where every scroll brings a new promise. Get shredded in 30 days. Teen arms workout for maximum biceps. The halls between classes are filled with cliques comparing macros, new protein flavours, and the most recent trend they picked up from a guy with suspiciously good lighting. You're watching classmates who couldn't finish the mile last semester suddenly maxing out on bench press, wearing tank tops in January, and talking about cutting like it's a science project. The gym, once a sad little room with broken dumbbells, is now packed before and after school. There are self-proclaimed gurus giving unsolicited form checks, and guys taping each other's sets for Instagram content. Every kid has their favourite influencer, from the guy who swears by eating 7 eggs for breakfast, to the girl who posts daily squat challenges with captions like #NoExcuses. What they don't post is the steady stream of supplement ads that keep sliding into your DMs, promising to transform you into a Greek statue for the price of a pizza. Somewhere along the line, the conversation shifts from, "Did you finish your homework?" to "What's your pre-workout stack?" The water fountains run pink or blue from mystery powders, and the school vending machines mysteriously start carrying energy drinks with warning labels longer than your history notes. Someone mentions SARMs in the locker room, selective androgen receptor modulators, which sound very sciencey, but you're not convinced they're safer than chugging battery acid. Peer pressure gets a digital upgrade. One friend is logging every meal on an app, another is selling discount codes for revolutionary creatine on their story. You hear about classmates ordering supplements online, some arriving in unmarked packages, others stuck in customs because the label reads "not for human consumption." Even your gym teacher, a relic from the era of dodgeball and milk cartons, throws up his hands and starts giving lectures about body image and setting healthy goals, but most of the class is checking their step count instead. The side effects show up faster than the gains. Some classmates are always tired. Others have mood swings that make puberty look like a gentle breeze. Acne spreads, shoulders broaden, and so does the suspicion. Who's actually natty? Who's running some mystery cycle they read about online? The accusations fly, but nobody really wants to dig too deep. After all, everyone just wants to win, whether it's the next game, the prom photos, or the endless race for followers. Occasionally there's a reality check. Someone winds up at urgent care with heart palpitations after chasing a TikTok energy hack. The football coach quietly confiscates a suspicious tub labelled Ultimate Mass Accelerator 400. The rumour spreads about the kid who fainted after trying a dry scoop challenge, and the entire science department shudders. But the hype rolls on. Teens keep chasing the next trend, the next PR, the next viral flex. After all, in the social media age, if you didn't film your squat, did it really happen? You start to wonder if anyone remembers why they started lifting in the first place. Was it for health, confidence, or just likes? For now, you refill your water bottle, nod to your gym teacher, and try to tune out the noise, hoping you can find a balance between ambition and sanity before your next set. And somewhere, in the back of the gym, your teacher sighs and adds influencer intervention to the list of things they never taught in teacher school. Steroids are technically banned, but the supplement aisle looks like a chemistry lab. You're lost somewhere between legal loopholes and expensive urine samples. You stroll into the nearest big box store ready to get healthy, and the first thing you see is an endless wall of neon tubs and bottles. There's Mega Mass in lime green, Ultra Shred Extreme in orange, Nature's Clean Boost in a bottle covered with more leaves than a small forest. Labels scream natural, safe, clinically tested, and doctor recommended. Somewhere near the end of the aisle, you spot something called Panther Power, and it's not clear if it's a protein powder or an exotic pet repellent. You stare at the shelves, trying to make sense of it all. There's creatine, whey, BCAAS, pre-workouts that taste like battery acid and promise to ignite your inner beast. There are fat burners, sleep aids, natural testosterone boosters, herbal anabolics, and powders with so many ingredients they'd make your old chemistry teacher break out in hives. The ingredient list read like coded messages: Tribulus terrestris, yohimbe, ashwagandha, deer antler velvet, and a dozen other things that sound more like spells than supplements. You pick up a bottle and try to decipher the claims. All natural, clinically studied, results in just 7 days. On the back, there's a microscopic disclaimer. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. If you squint, you can almost see your hope fading with every line. Meanwhile, the internet is just as confusing. Fitness influencers post glossy ads for miracle stacks, promising transformations so rapid your old yearbook photo will need a trigger warning. Every other post features a discount code for some new super supplement, with just enough fine print to make your lawyer nervous. You scroll through endless before and after photos and try to ignore the fact that everyone's lighting, tan and flex are suspiciously perfect. At the gym, the debate is never ending. Some lifters swear by their custom stack of powders, claiming it's all natural, never mind the odd colour or the lingering chemical scent. Others look down their noses at anything not grown in the dirt or caught with bare hands. There's always that one guy who says, "I don't trust supplements. I just eat steak and take cod liver oil," while his buddy's gym bag rattles with more pills than a pharmacy. Of course, the legal landscape is a labyrinth. As soon as the authorities ban one substance, the supplement industry tweaks a molecule and launches a brand new product. This one is technically legal until the next time a news story breaks about someone growing a third nipple or losing their eyebrows. Companies slap the word herbal or natural on the label, and suddenly even your grandma is asking about plant-based anabolic activators. The FDA scrambles to keep up, usually several years behind, and meanwhile everyone's urine starts to glow in the dark. You try a few products yourself, nothing crazy, just some extra strength protein with added test support. A few weeks later, you're pretty sure the only thing you gained was an emptier wallet and a lingering aftertaste that haunts your dreams. You read online that apparently some all-natural supplements have been spiked with banned substances anyway, and realise your expensive new habit could cost you a lot more than just pride. So you take a step back, wondering if the secret to health is really hiding in a $60 tub or just in old-fashioned hard work, sleep and spinach. The supplement aisle may be a jungle, but the real trick might just be making it through with your wallet, your health and your sanity intact. In a world of all natural lies and neon promises, the only thing guaranteed is a very expensive pee. Philosophical question. Is it cheating if everyone is doing it? You're stuck at a sports bar arguing with your uncle about the good old days, while he conveniently forgets the 1970s. Your uncle leans back in his seat, shakes the ice in his drink and starts reminiscing about pure athletes from his youth, the days when men were men and everyone played fair. You point out gently that his favourite slugger from 1977 had forearms the size of baguettes and a suspicious fondness for energy tonics. He grunts. "That's different," he says. "They just worked harder." Around you, the TVS play highlight reels, new records, impossible lifts, sprints that seem to defy physics. The bar is divided, half cheering, half suspicious. Welcome to the never-ending debate. What's cheating and what's just the next logical step? Across the history of sports, every new edge has faced accusations of unfairness. Your uncle might scoff at steroids, but he's silent about amphetamines in the 1960s, blood doping in the 1980s, or the high-tech swimsuits that briefly turned Olympic pools into water-based drag races. For every innovation, there's a chorus of "back in my day" and a counter-chorus of "if you're not cheating, you're not trying." Where does creativity end and corruption begin? You argue that maybe, just maybe, cheating is a moving target, a line in the sand that shifts every decade, conveniently erased and redrawn whenever a new trick emerges. Sneakers get lighter, training gets smarter, diets become science projects. Sports medicine used to mean ice packs and a pep talk. Now it means a small army of physiologists, engineers and people with enough acronyms after their name to spell out advantage. The bartender, clearly having heard this all before, weighs in. "Didn't Jesse Owens use the best shoes money could buy?" he asks, cleaning a glass. "Weren't old-time cyclists drinking wine during the Tour de France?" The conversation turns into a game of historical one-upmanship. Pine tar, corked bats, spitballs, laser-guided archery sights, even those mysterious oxygen tents you saw in an ESPN special. But there's a darker side too. You look around and see fans who just want to believe. They want heroes, athletes who inspire, who break records, who prove the impossible is possible. Every time a scandal hits, trust takes a hit. The lines at the supplement store get longer, but so do the columns of legal fine print. If you're not testing positive, your uncle jokes, you're probably not first. Is that cynicism or just realism? Meanwhile, some say the problem is the system. When the rewards are huge, money, fame, legacy, temptation grows. Everyone wants an edge, and everyone wants to believe their edge is fair. The cheaters are the ones who get caught. The innovators are the ones who change the game. Sometimes they're the same person. You sip your drink, look at the highlight reel and admit, it's complicated. Maybe it's all just innovation with bad PR. Maybe it's a question of where we draw the line, and how often we're willing to move it. After all, history remembers the winners, not the lab results. In the end, as you and your uncle reach a stalemate, you realise the moral maze isn't just about rules, it's about values, trust, and how much we're willing to believe in the myth of pure competition. You both raise a glass, and the debate goes on, just as it always has, and probably always will. You've made it to the present day, and the future is wild. Forget steroids. Now it's gene editing, brain chips, and the possibility of designer babies with six-pack abs. You stare at your Fitbit and realise, history doesn't repeat, but it definitely flexes. We're living in an era where the very definition of enhancement is up for grabs. The supplement aisle is still a neon jungle, but now it shares shelf space with DNA test kits and wearable tech that can tell you how many REM cycles you had last night. The old dream was bigger biceps. The new dream is a body that never tires, a brain that never forgets, and a future child who can dunk before they can walk. You look around the gym, if you can even call it that anymore. Smart mirrors correct your form. AI coaches shout encouragement from your headphones, and half the class is wearing glucose monitors or recovery boots that look like they were designed by NASA. One guy is biohacking his mitochondria with a supplement that promises quantum energy. Another is live streaming his workout to an audience of thousands, none of whom you suspect are sweating as much as he is. And the biggest buzz? It's not protein powder. It's CRISPR, the gene editing tool that's already cured diseases in mice and could theoretically program your offspring for perfect fast-twitch muscle fibers. Why train for a gold medal when you can custom order the next Michael Phelps or Simone Biles before they're even born? You imagine the sports of tomorrow, not just faster and stronger, but genetically optimized, neuro-enhanced, and maybe, just maybe, a little bit terrifying. If CRISPR is the scalpel, then brain chips are the sledgehammer. You hear about Elon Musk's Neuralink and similar devices designed to upgrade human cognition. Picture an athlete who can memorize every playbook, anticipate every move, and never get distracted by the roar of the crowd. The chess grandmasters have already been beaten by AI. Will the athletes be next? And if so, who's actually competing, the person or the program? The questions multiply. If one country starts editing genes for better athletes, does everyone else have to keep up? Will future Olympics feature categories for untouched humans and tech-assisted competitors? Are we heading for a world where natural talent means untouched code? Or will there be a nostalgic return to basics, where the only performance enhancer is a cup of coffee and an underdog spirit? Meanwhile, everyday people are swept up in the hype. Fitness trackers buzz with optimal zone notifications. Apps analyze your DNA and recommend bespoke routines, from sprints to supplements to sleep cycles. Ads promise to unlock your genetic potential, and somewhere in a basement, a self-taught biohacker is one YouTube tutorial away from trying to splice themselves a better VO2 max. The irony, for all our advances, some things stay the same. Athletes still push limits. Fans still cheer. Rulebooks still get rewritten. Only now they need a glossary of biotech terms and maybe a bioethicist or two on the panel. The line between fair and unfair is blurrier than ever, moving faster than the science itself. You look down at your Fitbit, counting your steps, monitoring your heart rate, and realise you're already part cyborg. You still crave progress, but now you're also haunted by questions. How much is too much? What will sports look like when the line between human and machine is just another setting in the app? So you walk out of the gym into a world full of possibility and paradox, where the next frontier of greatness may be written in code, not sweat. The future doesn't just run, jump or lift, it hacks, uploads and upgrades, and as history flexes, so does the dream of what we might become if we're brave or reckless enough to chase it. You find yourself in a damp, echoey basement somewhere in 1970s Vienna. There are no Instagram accounts, but somehow every guy here knows which doctor will give you a little extra edge. Everyone talks in code. Are you on the special diet? Means, did your cousin bring back any orals from Bulgaria? Welcome to the world's most suspicious potluck. This is not the shiny, influencer-filled gym of the 21st century. The walls are concrete, the lighting is unforgiving, and the only motivational posters are curling at the edges and written in 3 languages you don't speak. The air smells like chalk, sweat, liniment, and perhaps a dash of cheap vodka. Old weights clatter on the floor, and in the corner, a makeshift bulletin board is covered in handwritten for sale notes for used plates, knee wraps, and a few supplements that sound more like Bond villains than dietary aids. You're the new guy, nervous, eager, and a little out of your depth. The regulars are a mix of hulking men with accents as thick as their calves and wiry veterans who survived at least one world war and claim to know the secret to perfect triceps. They bench press with form that borders on spiritual. Their knowledge of supplements is whispered, traded, and guarded like a family heirloom. The language is half German, half Winx, and entirely cryptic. How's your recovery? Could mean anything from, are you eating enough protein? To did you try that vial from Sergey's friend? The system is both simple and complex. Everyone wants gains, but no one wants to be obvious about how they get them. There's a sort of honour code. Share what works, don't snitch, and never ask direct questions about what's in the brown glass bottles. Those bottles, by the way, arrive wrapped in newspaper, slipped into lockers, or traded behind the squat rack in broad daylight, if you know the right handshake. Competition here is fierce, but oddly supportive. If you're hitting a new PR, there's a good chance half the room is chanting your name, or what they think your name is. After the set, a grizzled old-timer will sidle over and whisper, "Next time, try a little of this," handing you a mysterious packet or pill. Nobody ever explains exactly what this is, but everyone swears it helped the Bulgarian national team break records last year. But these are the pre-internet days, so everything is rumour and legend. Some guys claim to have recipes handed down from old Soviet weightlifting manuals. Others swear by secret injections available only if you know the right person in Prague. One guy has a cousin who's a pharmacist, sort of. Another has a friend who liberated some supplements from a supply closet at the local hospital. Nobody trusts official channels. Everybody trusts rumours. With no official bans or mainstream knowledge, the line between legal and experimental is basically whatever you can get away with. A few gym bros are pure old school, eggs, steak, and elbow grease. But most are mixing powders, homebrews, and pills with a level of scientific confidence that would terrify any real doctor. There are triumphs, guys who add 20 kilogram to their squat in a month, and disasters. The odd gym bro who disappears for a week and returns a little hairier, a little angrier, and suspiciously mum about what he was recovering from. Yet, even here, it's not all about the muscle. It's about belonging. a secret society of strivers united by iron, ambition, and a willingness to trust whatever comes in a nondescript bottle. When someone asks, "Are you on the special diet?" you just nod, take your packet, and chase it with a sip of something strong. Welcome to 1970s Vienna, where the true gains are measured in friendships, whispers, and just a little bit of perfectly legal, probably, mystery powder. It's 1985 and you're waiting behind the gym, eyeing a guy who insists his name is Mick and that these ampules are totally legit. Cash changes hands. You're suddenly convinced the only people making a profit from all this are the manufacturers of brown paper bags and fake mustaches. If this is cutting-edge sports medicine, you're in trouble. This is the not-so-glamorous underbelly of athletic ambition, the back-alley world of unregulated supplementation. No prescription, no problem. The only question that matters is, how badly do you want to get huge, and how much plausible deniability can you buy for $20 and a handshake? The gym parking lot has become the new frontier for performance enhancement. In the shadows between the dented cars and discarded protein bar wrappers, muscle-bound hopefuls wait for their turn, glancing over their shoulders to make sure the only cops around are too busy finishing their donuts to care. Mick, if that's even his real name, pops his trunk with a flourish. Inside, a collection of glass ampules, bottles and boxes are arranged with more care than the weights in the gym. There's Dika from Italy, Tess from somewhere in South America, and a handful of vials with labels in Cyrillic. Some are shrink-wrapped, some are sticky, and all of them look just suspicious enough to make you reconsider your life choices. Mick assures you it's all pharmaceutical grade, which sounds reassuring until you remember that his last job was at a pet store. You've done your homework, or at least read a few photocopied articles from guys with impressive biceps and questionable spelling. Everyone in the locker room has advice. Stack it with this for size. Take that on an empty stomach. Don't tell anyone, ever. Half of it contradicts the other half, but you nod along because, let's face it, nobody wants to be left behind. Your gym rivals are suddenly gaining muscle faster than you can blink. The whispers grow. He's on the good stuff. He's got a guy. Mick hooks him up. Inside the gym, the effects of the black market are visible in every flex and every competitive glare. Guys who were just above average last season are now winning contests and outlifting everyone in sight. No one talks openly, but everyone knows. The trainers have stopped asking questions, and the gym owner has a see-no-evil policy as long as memberships keep rising. Of course, it's not all success stories. You hear about a guy who ended up in the ER after injecting a vitamin B12 blend that was, in fact, nothing more than vegetable oil with an identity crisis. Another lifter's shipment was seized by customs, and he spent a week explaining to his mom why there were letters from the DEA. Some folks get burned with fakes, ampules filled with sugar water or worse, cut with things you'd expect to find under the kitchen sink. But the demand keeps growing. The real allure of the black market isn't just the muscle, it's the secrecy, the thrill of the forbidden, the whispered promise that you too can get an edge if you're brave enough or foolish enough to risk it. You stash your newly acquired ampules in a shoebox under your bed and hope for the best. You justify it all by telling yourself you're just doing what you have to do to compete. Everyone's got their secrets, right? As you jab yourself with a needle and wince, you remember Mick's final piece of advice. If anyone asks, you never saw me. In the world of trunk deals and dodgy pharmacies, trust is measured in brown bags and biceps, and the real gamble is what's actually inside. Welcome to the black market, where the only thing more dangerous than the drugs is the hope they sell. You're at practice, mid-squat, as your coach wanders by. He gives you a look that says, "Are you hitting your macros?" But his tone says, "Don't forget to rotate injection sites." Training logs become cryptic masterpieces, filled with symbols, doodles, and what might be a map to a hidden vial under the bleachers. Every athlete's progress is mysterious, but nobody's talking. Welcome to the unsaid, unspoken, and occasionally unprintable playbook of competitive sports, the coach's code. Here, in the world where winning is everything and second place is the first loser, everyone learns how to speak a new language, a dialect of shrugs, winks, and plausible deniability. Officially, your coach is here to make sure you eat enough, sleep enough, and never skip leg day. Unofficially, he's the gatekeeper of secrets, the high priest of see no evil, hear no evil, say nothing in front of the athletic director. It starts innocently enough. A few new faces show up to practice, suddenly making impossible gains. The coach is thrilled, but never asks too many questions. It's all that extra protein, he winks. You nod, aware that nobody in the history of the team has ever benched an extra 50 pounds in 3 weeks from eating cottage cheese. Training schedules start including suspiciously vague notations, special work, supplementation, or sometimes just a smiley face next to your max effort day. You learn to read between the lines. A circle means recovery, a star means today's the day. A smiley face means don't talk about today. Ever. You notice, too, that team meetings become exercises in doublespeak. Nutrition advice is peppered with careful reminders about following all rules and consulting with your doctor, but behind closed doors the conversation changes. You guys are adults, your coach says, eyes locked on yours in the mirror. I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you what works, and what works, as everyone knows, is what the competition is doing, except maybe a little smarter, a little quieter, and with a lot more hand sanitizer. Every so often, a teammate comes back from injury rehab looking suspiciously leaner, stronger, or both. There are rumours of special phone calls, late-night gym sessions, and packages arriving with medical supplies. If anyone asks, it's always vitamins, protein powder, or just genetics. You learn that the real coaching happens in whispers, advice on masking side effects, hints about cycle timing, stern reminders to rotate injection sites for optimal results. The best coaches know when to look the other way and when to quietly steer you back from the edge. The training log is a minor work of cryptography. Athletes sketch out their sets and reps in pencil, then add private symbols for what they really did. A double underline means extra help. A doodle of a lightning bolt might be code for an injection day. Sometimes there's a drawing of a little syringe hidden next to a PR. It's not that anyone is stupid enough to write took 200 grams of testy at 7:30 p.m. It's just that everyone needs to remember their own system. And everyone needs plausible deniability if a school official, a nosy parent, or a journalist ever gets curious. If a scandal ever threatens, the coach's code kicks into high gear. Team meetings get tense. Everyone's told to focus on the next game. Rumours swirl about random testing. Suddenly there's an uptick in injuries and absences. The coach is more careful, double-checks the locker room before saying anything, and insists that this team follows all the rules. Behind closed doors he might mutter, "Remember, keep your heads down and don't do anything stupid." Years later, you look back and realise how much went unsaid. The jokes, the winks, the endless stream of cryptic advice, all were part of a culture where winning mattered more than the fine print. Your coach never handed you a vial, but he never really told you not to take one either. In the world of competitive sports, sometimes the real training is learning how to read between the lines, and how to keep your mouth shut when you need to most. It's the medal ceremony. You're draped in a flag, eyes glistening as the national anthem plays. The world wants a hero. The tabloids want a scandal. Your old classmates want to know if you still have that prescription from Dr. Smith. Is it possible to be both an inspiration and a cautionary tale? The answer apparently is yes, sometimes before the bouquet wilts. You stand atop the podium, heart racing and ears ringing with applause. Cameras flash, families cheer, and for a brief shining moment, you are the embodiment of dedication and national pride. Commentators recount your story. The sacrifices, the injuries, the comeback. Your coach looks on, chest puffed out, as if single-handedly responsible for your every muscle fibre. Even your rivals nod in grudging respect. This is your time until the whispers start. It's never long before the questions catch up to the applause. How'd they do it? Are they for real? Is it all just hard work or something more? It's a tale as old as competition. The better you perform, the more incredible your feats, the louder the doubts. Fans want to believe in miracles, but years of scandal have left everyone a little jaded. Sports journalists analyse your performance, slow motion replaying your finish, looking for the hint of an edge, technological, pharmaceutical, or otherwise. The pressure doesn't end with the medal. At the after-party, old teammates pull you aside, voices low. "Congrats, champ," they say. But then, "So you still have a hookup for those vitamins?" In the locker room, the jokes fly, clean as a whistle. But the glances are less playful, more pointed. You catch a snippet of conversation. Nobody gets that fast without help. Even family dinners take a turn. Aunt Linda, never one for subtlety, leans in and asks, "Are you sure you want to eat that? I saw a story on TV." Meanwhile, the press never sleeps. There are articles about your remarkable late career gains, speculative think pieces about your training regimen, and anonymous sources hinting at new methods sweeping the sport. A week later, the headline changes. Champion tested. Results pending. You try to focus on your next goal, but every question from a reporter feels loaded. Every handshake comes with an unspoken, "Are you really who you say you are?" Social media is no help. One post congratulates you, the next wonders what's in your blood. Strangers dissect your high school track photos, looking for signs of early enhancement. Fans debate, conspiracy theorists flourish, and the comment section turns into a battlefield. You try not to look, but curiosity gets the best of you. They're too good to be clean, just jealous. Science project. You stop reading after a while, but the words linger. If you're lucky, your name clears. If not, you join a long list of fallen idols, some guilty, some unlucky, all tarnished. No matter the outcome, the lesson is clear. The higher you climb, the more people want to see you fall. Sometimes, you feel like you're playing two sports at once, the one on the field and the one in the headlines. And yet, in quieter moments, you remember why you started. The thrill of the run, the sound of the crowd, the pride of seeing your hard work pay off. You cling to those memories, hoping they'll drown out the noise. Maybe true heroism is just carrying on despite the suspicion, knowing that inspiration and scandal are never more than a headline apart. You step off the podium, the weight of the medal pressing into your collarbone. The music fades, the bouquets wilt, and you steel yourself for the next race, against time, against doubt, and against a world forever caught between awe and suspicion. So tonight, as you finally let go of the day and sink into your clean, regulation-size bed, take a deep breath and give a little nod to the bizarre, brilliant, and frankly bonkers saga of steroids in sports. Because behind every flexed muscle and shattered world record, there's a tangled story of ambition, science, secrecy, and, yes, a dash of total nonsense. Think of the athletes who risked it all for a medal, who spent sleepless nights not just training, but nervously checking for side effects, new regulations, or, occasionally, for their own eyebrows to fall out. Remember the scientists who blended hope with hubris, the coaches who winked and looked away, and the crowds who cheered, even as they wondered, is anyone here still running on just oatmeal and hard work? This is the history of winning at all costs, of humans chasing greatness and sometimes losing track of the finish line. It's a story of broken rules, broken dreams, and somehow a stubborn belief that next season things might be different. Maybe a little cleaner, maybe a little fairer, maybe not. So as you close your eyes tonight, be grateful for modern comforts, for clear rules, for safe medicine, and for the fact that nobody's sneaking you mystery injections while you sleep. Remember, history may be swollen with scandal and spiked with irony, but it's also proof that people, athletes, fans, and even the world's most suspicious gym rats are endlessly hopeful and wonderfully absurd. Rest easy, knowing you survived this wild tale with your sense of humour and your natural hormone levels intact. Good night.